All right, so today I just want to complain slash review The Walking Dead. So I'm sure you've all heard of The Walking Dead, unless this is 10 years from when I recorded it. Um, so I watched most of The Walking Dead, and a lot of my complaints will be about the season with Negan in it. Um, just because I can't remember all the other complaints, I guess. So first off, and foremost, I'll review it briefly. I don't recommend it unless you want to put yourself in their shoes and think about what you would do, and you have someone to talk to. Then it's fun. That's how I watched it. Then it's entertaining. You can critique it. But if you want to watch it for the plot, it basically doesn't exist. They essentially didn't write a plot. So it's really boring and almost nothing happens in the entire series. Um, and even the characters, I mean, people say the characters are great, but I didn't really feel like there was much to the characters either. And I didn't really like any of them except for Carl, the kid. But I don't want to give away too much in case you're going to watch it in terms of that. So some of my complaints were, so one, all right, so you're in a world where there's these zombies that are killing your friends all the time. It happens the entire series. Makes no sense. Human teeth are not very sharp. It's really easy to block a human tooth. So you wear some armor. Now this could be as simple as a jacket. You know, I don't even think they could bite through a jean jacket. But leather, anything with a little thickness, you're essentially impervious to zombies at that point. Now, you put it on your main areas, you know, you cover your hands, your wrists, you know, things that could be more exposed. Unless you have riot gear or full sets of plate armor, which would be the best. If I was fighting zombies, I would probably break into a museum and steal all their plate armor and equip my troops with that. But I'll talk more about that in a second. But just the general idea that you're in this threat and you're seeing your friends die, and they won't wear armor except for once in a while they do minimally, but then it doesn't catch on. That just doesn't make any sense. Now, along with that, when you're fighting zombies, it's completely different than fighting a human. First, they're slow. Second, they're dumb. Third, they're a little weaker where they should be, since their muscles have been degrading for months or years. Makes no sense, but fine. Even if they're the same strength, they're dumb and they're slow. Back in the day, during Greek and Roman times, they fought in armor. They had shields, swords. They fought in lines. If you were to organize your people with as much armor as possible, and makeshift shields or real shields if you can find them, or riot shields, and some sort of melee weapon, like a mace. I always thought maces would be ideal for zombies. You're crushing their heads, and that kills them. Swords could be okay, but things like katanas and those samurai swords that Michonne used, they would probably break or be dull by the end of the show. That was sort of unbelievable to me, but a thicker sword, could be good, or an axe. Anything where you have easy access to their head. Now, knives, they don't make any sense. I don't know why they're using knives the entire show, because they're short, you have to get close. So you're essentially putting yourself in range of their only weapon, which are their tiny little weak teeth. So that's never made sense to me. But if you're going to use a knife, then put good armor on your hand and arm, at least. And then I guess it would be fine, because they wouldn't be able to do that much to you. But the entire show, they're engaging with these zombies. They're getting right up into them and getting bit half the time. And that just made no sense to me. So think about it like you're back in those times. You organize yourself in ranks in armor with melee weapons, and you could take out 100 times your number of zombies. I know there was one part where there was a ton of zombies that they wanted to lead off. First off, they could have burned them. They don't really utilize fire very much. They could have made napalm or things like that and burned them. Once one starts burning, they just walk into each other and they burn each other up. So that would have been easy. But if you're ever fighting zombies and they're not in a pit or whatever, you align yourself in ranks and you fight with your melee weapons. You don't need your bullets, and you could easily take them out with minimum to no risk. Back in the day in the Roman armies, they were fighting smarter, faster humans that were armed with weapons and had armor. Zombies are just pathetic little things. And if it's really a concern, you just walk away from them because they're really slow. Now, along with that, in the show, they're constantly using guns to kill zombies. That is a tremendous waste of ammo. And in this show, they would have ran out of ammo 1,000 times over. They would not have ammo with the amount that they use it. In real life, you would want to conserve your ammo. You only use your ammo if you have to fight humans. And when you're fighting zombies, you have your armor and melee weapons. Simple as that. So food is another concern. They are constantly running out of food. They don't have food. But multiple times in the series, they're in consistent places for a long time with land that they could farm. So, and it takes them a long time to do it. They do it a little bit in the one season. They don't really do it in the last season I watched, which I think was the second to last season. And it just doesn't make any sense. You're in a world where you don't have people making your food. You need to make your food. And, I would have, if I was the leader instead of Rick, I would have made sure that we were growing crops and, you could raise animals for milk and eggs and your vegetables and your fruit and get that established, because that's really important to have food. And it just seems like they don't care that much about it. So that bothered me. And some interesting things or ideas that they could have done with the zombies is, they're essentially like a workforce for you, or they could be. So they do a couple clever things with zombies in the show, like use them for defense and things like that. But you could use them to pull plows for you, for your crops. You could use them to drag supplies. I even thought you could use them to generate electricity. If you put them on something that rotates around a motor, and they're consistently walking, you could generate electricity that way. Any movement can generate electricity. And since the zombies somehow have unlimited amounts of energy, even though they don't eat, they eat minimally, but probably most aren't a lot of the time. You could generate electricity that way. And I always thought that would be interesting. And, along with that, the zombies, and I guess this is all zombies, but they don't really make sense. Except for when they occasionally eat people. When they're not eating people, where are they getting this unlimited energy to be able to move from point A to point B? We get it by eating. And, maybe you could say they get it from their bodies. But the bodies would be falling apart. And over a period of time, and not even that long, they wouldn't be able to function anymore. Their muscles would stop working. Their teeth would even fall out. They wouldn't even be risks anymore. So I always thought that was funny. That's just not really scientifically realistic. Another part about the zombies that just bothered me, and probably a bunch of people have talked about this, but the whole transmission of the virus, like they said it's in you all the time, and somehow the bite activates it. That doesn't make any sense. And I also think it's funny because they're constantly putting blood all over them and stuff, and somehow the virus isn't in the zombie's blood that you're getting in your mouth. I don't really understand that at all, but there was some inconsistencies there as well. Another thing that bothered me, I just want to talk about the characters a little bit. I don't know, some people really like the characters. I don't know why. What bothered me was that they were all just so dumb. They just were doing dumb things all the time, and I don't like shows or novels like that. You know, everybody was like, "Oh, Rick is so amazing. He's such a great leader," but he was constantly leading them into to disasters and making really bad decisions and whatnot. And I guess ultimately it comes down to the original writer must not have been very bright, because I understand you can have dumb characters and that's realistic, but it'd be nice to have at least one smart character that makes good decisions. And lastly, just a few gripes, primarily about the season with Negan. First off, when they gave up their guns, first, I think it's really dumb to inventory your guns, that people don't have their guns on them. You're in a scenario where you're constantly at war, and that's pretty important to have them and to have extra ones and secret ones. And as soon as they give up their guns, which they're like, oh, let's give up our guns to keep peace so that we have no defense against this psychopathic lunatic that wants to control us. And what happens is, they get controlled. So that was just a really bad decision. I mean, I at least would have had some secret or hidden weapons to fight back with. And I mean, they eventually get more, but I don't want to spoil that too much. But it's not like it's that amazing that it's really spoiling anything anyway. And then another gripe about that season is they had an opportunity where Negan and all his people were right in front of him and they had their guns and they could have just killed them all. And instead they don't. They let them go away and then they get, destroyed and their friends are dying and things like that. That just makes no sense. And along with that, I kept wanting them, when Negan's people would come and they would have to give them supplies, they could have easily taken that group out. They could have used that truck to infiltrate the base, go back with all your people and pour out, and everyone just stands around when that truck comes back. You could have just killed them all. So there was a lot of opportunities that they had where they could have done more intelligent things to win, and they just never did. That's what bothered me. I kept wanting them to make good decisions and for the plot to get better, and it just never does. So those are some general complaints I have. I would love to watch episodes and talk about all the things they could improve, but this is good for now. So that's it.